She was like, you need to go to the hospital now. Like, I'm not asking you need to go to the hospital.
My name's Olivia. I was born with a rare genetic condition.
We're losing the battle.
My suffering does not define me. With every battle I face, I am made stronger through faith.
I'm free! This video is super long overdue and I've been meaning to film this, but it's been one thing after another and I just haven't gotten around to it. I have been filming. I did not just stop vlogging completely. The vlogs just need some explaining. Starting out with the semester, it was great. I got my first permit, like first time living on my own, got it all set up, got a roommate. My roommate and I were getting along great and started classes. I started going to church at my new church as well. Around the time that classes started, I got involved in some clubs. I had already reapplied for vocational rehabilitation before even going to Maine, and then I applied for my accommodations. The two clubs that I got involved in were CRU, C-R-U, and I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's a Christian club. The second club that I got involved in was a figure skating club. Even with life getting busy, I was still managing everything okay, but then while I was figure skating, I was trying out new skills, and I don't even remember exactly how it happened or what happened, but somehow I fell really, really, really hard. Took a really bad fall. This is where things started to go downhill. The fall was so bad that I could not get up. Like, I didn't realize it until I tried to get up, and then I was like, ooh, yeah, I cannot get up. And I don't remember who came up to me, but some of the people from my figure skating club came up. They had to like lift me off the ice because I could not move. I hit my hip really bad. I think my elbow, my palm, and then my knee. But it hurt really bad to move. I wasn't sure if like my hip hurt more or my knee hurt more, but both hurt so bad that I just could not put any weight on my legs. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna let it rest for a minute, drink some water, and then I'll get back on the ice and I'll be fine. So that's what I did. I just let it rest for a minute, and even though it was like really, really, really hurting while I was on the ice, skating is like my one way of like tuning everything out and just, I don't know, it's like therapy. It's my way of coping with life. Even though I was in a lot of pain, I was still having a lot of fun, and I continued to practice my new skills. And I skated till the very end of the ice time. So I got done skating, I was talking to one of my figure skating friends, and then as I was sitting, taking off my skates, I realized that there was trigger warning just for anyone who's sensitive to blood or anything like that. You might want to skip ahead because there's going to be some photos and stuff like that. But I was taking off my skates and I was wearing light tan leggings, so as I was taking them off, I realized there was like blood coming through my leggings, and I was like, oh, I'm hurt a lot more than I thought, because there was nothing sharp that I came in contact with. There was nothing. It was just like very smooth ice that I fell on, and my skates didn't hit me or anything like that. I mean, it's pretty impossible for one skate to come up and hit the other leg. Not impossible, just that would be a very awkward type of fall. So I knew that my knee was literally just bleeding because of the impact. It had busted open, and I was like, that's not good. And all the while, I was telling everybody that I was fine, because everybody was like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go back on the ice. Oh, maybe you should rest. Maybe somebody should drive you home. And I was like, no, I drove myself, like, I'm fine, I'll be okay. I had no idea my knee was bleeding until I was taking off my skates. And then once I realized, I was like, oh, hey, talking to my friend, call out her name, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm not okay. There's blood coming through my leggings, but like, I was concerned just because I knew I didn't come in contact with anything sharp. She was concerned, obviously, like everyone was telling me to get off the ice, and I was like, well, maybe it's fine. In my head, I was thinking that. So I get home, and the first thing I do is take off my leggings to check on my knee, but I had class right after. Normally, I just run home. I either eat something, let my dog out, or I rest for a minute, and then I go to class. So this time I had gotten home, and I immediately went to go check on my knee, because I was like, well, if my knee's not okay, I need to do something. And as soon as I took my leggings off, it just like literally was closed, but moments after, because I was wearing such tight compression leggings, it just went split open. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not okay, because I could see everything on the inside of my knee. I think I have a video. It's not like a super big thing, but I'll put in like a video or a photo. Because I had seen that, I was like, well, great, now what do I do? Because my health insurance does not carry over to other states. The doctors in the hospital, all of that is expensive. And so I immediately just FaceTime my mom, even though I'm 28 years old. This first person I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to do. And she was like, what's wrong? And I immediately just like switched the camera around to my knee, and I was like, look. And she was like, oh no, you need to go to the hospital. I was like, Mom, I cannot afford to go to the hospital. She was like, I don't care what you do, like, just, you need to go get that stitched up. You cannot just leave it like that. I was like, Mom, I have class, I have to go to class. She was like, well, do it after class. And I was like, I don't think it's safe to leave my knee wide open while I'm in class. But at the same time, like, I really did not want to miss class. I just was like, okay, whatever, like, I'll try to find a doctor. Let me see if I can, like, go see a doctor, get it stitched up, and go to class afterwards, which was not practical, but at the time I was like, I could totally do this. So I was Googling, making phone calls, and everybody that was calling was like, oh, you need to go to Cutler Health, which is like the school's office, but like, the school doesn't pay for that, and it's way more expensive at the university. So I was like, I can't do that. That's not an option. And I even called there after running out of options, and it still wasn't even an option, because they were like, oh, we can't get you in. And every place that I was calling was like, you need to go to the hospital. Eventually, I called this one place called Convenient MD, and I was like, do you do stitches? And finally, I just got a straightforward answer. Yes, we do stitches. So I was like, awesome, great, I'm coming. How much is it? And got the price. It wasn't too expensive, but like definitely not affordable for somebody who's already broken in college. But I was like, I have to go get it done. I told my mom what's going on. She told me she would help me out. So I went, I got it stitched up. Everything was okay, but then as the night was going on, I was doing homework and all of that, and obviously didn't make it to class that day. My knee kept on hurting worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was like, I can't move. And the next morning, I woke up just in like excruciating pain, but like I was so focused on like trying to get to class that even though it was excruciating to move or to do anything, I was like, well, I've got to get dressed, I got to get out the door, I got to make it to class. And so I still like got all dressed up for class. I still did my makeup, and by the time I was done and like heading out the door, I was like, I cannot walk. It was excruciating, literally just to hop too on my good leg. And I was like, something is really wrong, but then I kept shutting it out of my head. I was like, I just need to get to class. I was like, but I can't walk, how do I get there? So I was like, I'm just gonna have to use my wheelchair today. And I really didn't want to use my wheelchair to go to class at all, like all semester long, all year long. Anytime I'm at school because it's difficult for people to see you in a wheelchair one day and not in another day. And it's not like somebody who gets injured and has like crutches or like a hospital wheelchair. I have a custom wheelchair, so for people to see that and not understand, I just didn't want to have to do tons of explaining. I don't know, just kind of like fighting stigma, I guess. But I was like, oh, I don't really have a choice. It's either this or I don't go to class, and I'm going to class. But I went into class in my wheelchair. Nobody really had like the reaction I was fearing. I mean, there was a lot of people staring, but I think that's just for the simple fact that like, I think people would have stared whether I was in a hospital wheelchair or my custom wheelchair. Like, it's not normal for somebody to come in a wheelchair when you're normally walking, no matter what. I come to class and immediately my professor, it's a very, very small class. That class in particular is very small, but my professor immediately was like, oh my gosh, what happened? I was just like, I fell. I had to get stitches. And she was like, go home. Go home. And I was like, no, I need to stay. She was like, go home. I'm not asking. But I start going out the door and she was like, you, go with her. Help her out to her vehicle. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got home. I immediately got undressed and into comfy clothes. I just needed to be as comfortable as possible because I was in so much pain. So I sat on my bed. I normally don't sit on my bed to do homework. Sat on my bed planning to do homework, sat with my laptop on me, but like didn't do a thing on my laptop for hours. I was just like staring off into space trying to distract myself from the pain, but it just kept getting worse and worse, and eventually I just started sobbing and I was like, I'm in so much pain. And I have a very high pain tolerance. I had an exam coming up and I could not go anywhere or do anything. I also just spent a ton of money at urgent care to get stitches, so I couldn't afford to go anywhere else. But I don't remember what happened. My mom texted me and I just responded to her with like a very childlike response, and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to come home. And she was like, she immediately called me and I was literally sobbing, and she was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? I was like, I cannot stand the pain. I cannot stand it. I was like, something's really, really wrong. She was like, you need to go to the hospital now. And I was like, no. She was like, you need to go to the hospital now. Like, I'm not asking, you need to go to the hospital. And I had texted my roommate like moments before, like, hey, can you get me an ice pack? But my roommate comes in with the ice pack. She's like 10 years younger than me, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on? What can I do to help? And I was like, in my head, I was thinking, nothing anybody does right now can help. I'm in so much pain. That's what I was thinking, but I just was like, I don't know. And like, as my mom's like telling me I need to go to the hospital, my roommate was like, I can drive you. And I was like, no, I want to lay here. I don't want to move, because any kind of movement, even just like moving my arms, just made the pain so much worse. And eventually I got to the point where I was like calm enough to text a friend, and she came and got me, took me to urgent care again, and then stayed with me the whole time. And we were there like all day. We were there until everybody else was gone. And they this time did imaging and gave me antibiotics and all of that, but like, that set me back a lot, because that was 2 full days, and even though 2 full days doesn't sound like a lot, like, I didn't plan on that happening. So I had all my schoolwork planned out. Oh, I'm gonna do this on this day, I'm gonna do this on this day, I'm gonna study on this day. But 2 days is a lot when you don't have any wiggle room. Like, you have an exam this day, you have an assignment this day, assignment this day, assignment this day, and an exam this day. And so if you get set back 2 days, you're set back for like all that time until you get caught up. And that didn't really happen, because the work just gets heavier and heavier the longer that you're in school. And prior to that, I was editing videos, I was getting my schoolwork done, I was going to my clubs and everything, but that set me back a lot. Like mentally, physically, academically. Eventually my knee got better, but it's still not totally better. It's actually not okay still. I can walk on it and everything like that, and I'm not supposed to be skating on it, but I skate. But it swells up extremely bad, and it constantly is bruised. And no, I haven't fallen on it anymore or anything like that, but it's like something inside of my knee is bleeding or something because it's constantly bruised. And in the same spot, like around where I got the stitches, and it just swells up. So like, I don't know what is going on with it, but I need to go to the doctors and get it checked out. But like I said, that set me way back. I had to reschedule one of my exams, but I ended up taking that exam and I did really well.
This is like a super brief and random moment in time, but yeah, I got an A+ on my first exam in my psych class. There's 115 people in that class, and 60% of them got F's, D's, and C's. Over 60% of them. And I got an A+. That's so crazy. I can't even believe it, because that exam was the hardest exam I've ever taken. Out of all the time that I've spent in school, that was the hardest exam I have ever taken, and I thought I was gonna get a D on it, but I got an A+. I'm in shock. I just had to share that news.
Unfortunately, like from that point on, like I didn't go to any of my clubs anymore because I'm the type of person that like once I get into the routine of things, I have a very hard time finding a new routine, which is also why I didn't want to skip any of my classes. And I had a very, very, very hard time finding a new routine. I had a very hard time getting caught up, and I just took little snippets of vlogs.
I think I totally forgot to record the other day when I found out how I did on my first statistics exam. I got a 97. I'm proud of that, but like I didn't share because I knew I was gonna do well on that exam. I didn't even have to study for it, but I'm super excited about what just happened. So I really wanted to share this. I just did my Spanish oral interview, which I thought was gonna go horribly, and I was so scared because my Spanish professor doesn't give me like, I don't know, she's all over the place. Not, well, I was gonna say not in a bad way, but like I don't fully understand her. So like I thought I was gonna do bad on this oral interview, and then when the oral interview was finished, she was like, we can communicate perfectly in Spanish. You did great. You did really well. Great job. And I was like, oh, great. Because, I mean, it felt like it was going really well when we were in oral interview. I came in literally shaking, super, super, super nervous. And then I kept telling her, like, I'm so nervous. And she was like, it's okay. Don't even think about it. Just calm down. And I think because I let her know I was so nervous, she kind of kept the interview very calm and relaxed. So like, it felt just like any other conversation. Like when I went to Costa Rica, like I would just have conversations with people there in Spanish, because not a lot of people there speak English. They don't get like English classes in school automatically. They all teach themselves English. And I would have Spanish conversations with them, but like with a professor, it's so different, or at least it feels so different. But it went just like any other conversation that I've had with Spanish-speaking people in Costa Rica. So I'm super excited. I'm so glad I did well on that, and like super shocked. So far it seems like I don't know what my grade was on that, and I won't for a while. Like she doesn't really give us grades. I don't know what I'm getting on anything in that class, like the homework or the participation or anything like that. I think I have an A in that class though. I don't really know. She tells me I'm a really good student, so I'd assume I have an A in that class, but she doesn't post the grades. So if I do have an A in that class, then I've been keeping my 4.0, which I'm super excited about because I did not think that I was going to be able to keep my 4.0 at a university because it's very different from the other college that I went to. And it's been so long since I've taken in-person classes, like 10 years. But it's been going really well and I'm so excited. So yeah, I just wanted to share that short little update.
I ultimately did very well for the semester despite the knee injury, geez. And I was surprised because my psych exams were extremely hard, yet I scored in the first exam like top 8 people out of over 100 people in the class. Second exam, top 5. I was the third top score, I think. Third exam, I was number 1, and then the fourth exam, number 3 in the class. Ultimately, my professor told me that I was his top student because I was the only one in the class to score a top score every single time. So I did very well in the class, and I'm so glad that class is done because that class was hard. I also did statistics this semester, and it's really crazy. Like, this whole semester has been crazy because back in high school, I was actually taking elementary algebra because I could not even pass algebra 1 at a high school level, so I was taking like elementary algebra, but I got an A in the class, so I'm very happy about that. Not even an A-, but I got an A in the class, and that class, it wasn't hard. Like, the calculations and all of that for the class were not hard at all. Learning the formulas, not hard at all. The hardest thing about that class was just the workload. It was a lot of work. And also, like, you have to take your time with learning that kind of stuff, especially with having dyslexia. Yeah, it was a lot. I just took the wrong combination of classes together. Because then I also took applied Spanish, and that was difficult. The class itself wasn't difficult, but once again, it was the workload that got me. So I ended up getting an A in that class as well, so I finished the semester with all A's. The drive was anything but smooth. We hit a big snowstorm. My friend Navia and I are on a road trip back home,